That's right, bodyweight strength and particularly skills training makes you smarter. In a world of goldfish attention spans, sheep-like conformity, and ostrich-level reasoning precipitated by public education, institutional labor, and big industry, where IQ and physical ability have both been declining over the last 100 years, yes, you can improve your cognitive abilities through bodyweight strength and skills training. This includes your IQ, your memory, even your genetics. And not only that, but cognitive impairment due to injury. Or if you're just an average person who wants to become above average in mind and body, this will help you too. Plus gain some pretty freaking cool moves like handstands, muscle-ups, flares, and flips. So in this quick presentation, I'll share why bodyweight strength and skill works, case studies in action, and several techniques for how to leverage this methodology for yourself today. Now, I'm not saying just by learning bodyweight strength and skill, you're gonna teleport down a wormhole and transform into Nikola Tesla or anything. However, you'll be surprised by some pretty astounding intellectual improvements. On the other hand, you probably have met great athletes who you didn't consider to be the sharpest crayon in the box. But think about this. Where might they be without that physical training? Me personally, I've never met an advanced practitioner of bodyweight strength and skill who's a dummy, whether they're a breakdancer, martial artist, Powerbatics athlete, or anything else. This chart visually depicts how it works. As strength and skill complexity increases, cognition increases. On the bottom, simple, least common denominator behaviors are for the sheeple, the mass market. These can even turn into addictions. Up a level is what keeps people average and mediocre, thinking they're doing good enough, but not really developing. At the top is the sweet spot. Challenging, rigorous work maintains development. Beyond that is where burnout lives. People who redline for too long end up quitting or with problems. And at the far right, if it is too complex, people won't even try. The mind, brain, and body are intrinsically united. Destroying one destroys all. One of the ways they are connected is by the neurological system. The neurological system is not just electrical wiring. It is flesh. It has life. It grows, adapts, and changes according to environment, conditions, and stimulus. This is called neuroplasticity. I first learned about neuroplasticity in graduate school and wrote a thesis on a topic related to the intersection between spirituality and mental health. Although these are concepts not usually mentioned in theological discussion, let alone simple things like physical training. Essentially, the conclusion I arrived at is this, to quote myself, that the channel through which the calcium ion travels before coming to the end of the neuron, prompting a neurotransmitter to be discharged into the synapse, is opened wide by the quantum uncertainty principle, causing a quantum cloud of possibilities of the calcium ion to spread out as a wave packet. Therefore, the calcium ion may or may not be absorbed by the trigger site, upon which the release of the particular neurotransmitter depends. This takes place across the entire landscape of the brain, in trillions of nerve cells, creating a dense quantum superposition brain state in which there is a vast array of classical possibilities, a quasi-stable macroscopic degree of freedom. It is apparent that this volitional, effort-driven, attentional work is what results in, causes, or generates change throughout the entire landscape of the brain in a self-directed neuroplasticity, which goes into constructing and restructuring a human personality. Honestly, God only knows how all this stuff works. Despite all the peer-reviewed studies, research, and all that, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. It's since that time I've come to question quantum physics and a few other aspects of reality that might affect our understanding of human action and intelligence. But all that to say this, what we know without a doubt is that physical action changes the brain. This is extremely powerful, for better or worse. It explains why people stop developing intellectually, to put it nicely. For example, overly emotional people become even more emotional over time and eventually addicted to those emotions, limiting their intelligence and intellectual capacity. Simply put, their emotions are literally actions that become a neurologically driven lifestyle which betrays their development. Again, to put it nicely. Couple that with social media, which is designed to be addictive, reinforces emotionally driven actions, and is cognitively diminutive, not to mention a sedentary behavior. And what do we expect? That's why as a company, we even decided to cease all short form content creation for the time being and focus on long form, as well as the written materials available for people to read through email when they sign up for free in the opt-in page. But add on top of social media, the public schools, standardized testing like an IQ test, sedentary jobs, and mass marketing, which pulls communication down to the least common denominator, and human strength and intelligence are in a tough spot. It also explains how bodyweight strength and skill can increase your cognitive capacity. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Learning new skills creates new connections in your brain. When you continually create new connections, you leave behind old pathways, regrets, traumas, bad decisions. All of these old pathways fade into distant memory as you become a stronger, more intelligent, wiser person in both body and brain. Not only that, but practicing new skills increases the density of myelin, the fatty substance that coats the neurons in your brain and provides smoother signaling and overall better connectivity. I remember teaching art at this elite art school, and there was a lot of discussion in teacher training about neuroplasticity. Drawing, similar to learning an instrument or a new language, increases cognitive development. Often I'm asked how hard it is to learn bodyweight strength and skill. I say that learning a handstand, for example, is like learning to draw realistically. Extremely difficult and takes a lot of time and builds discipline. I've done both, and anecdotally I'd say that physical training is probably much more rigorous and creates much more opportunity for cognitive development. The bottom line is that learning new skills is the foundation for better cognition. And this is echoed throughout the ivory tower, like Dr. John Morris of Harvard's Institute for Aging Research, who says, embracing a new activity that also forces you to think and learn and requires ongoing practice can be one of the best ways to keep your brain healthy. Like CCSU Business and Development writes that new skills increase the density of your myelin, increasing cognitive performance. More myelin means more flow neurologically. Or scholarly articles like The Impact of Learning Multiple Real-World Skills on Cognitive Abilities and Functional Independence in Healthy Older Adults. Did you catch that? Simultaneously learning multiple skills results in considerable cognitive and functional growth, even in old people. And what do I say all the time in my videos? To train holistically, simultaneously building strength, flexibility, mobility, and skill. Every move, every skill, step by step, progression by progression, level by level. It's not like weightlifting or cardio, which are closer to the public school classroom, or physical therapy, which just isolates things to the minutia. Even gymnastics falls short since it is extremely conformist, dogmatic, and hierarchical by nature, leading to an incredulous amount of mental and physical burnout, the opposite of which we're after. What we want is both physical and mental development. Skills make you smarter, not just bodyweight training, other things too. But bodyweight strength and skill is an extremely cognitively demanding activity, and likewise is the perfect breeding ground for cultivating cognitive growth. Is 57 and a surfer for 16 years, but had a brain hemorrhage on her brainstem. She was very weak, even had to use a walker. Then breast cancer, and then a botched surgery, and on top of that, a stroke. She tried physical therapists who only focused on specific parts of her body and online surf programs only to be left frustrated and in tears in the water. And other surfers thought that she was just a beginner. And if you know anything about surfing, despite how effortless it may sometimes look, it's probably the most demanding discipline in the world, physically and mentally. Now she has solid strength, flexibility, and mobility. She's popping up strong and riding every day and even going on an epic surf trip. There's multiple facets to this that we can all learn from. First, it takes patience, a cognitive discipline, exercise just like a muscle. Second, it takes personal responsibility coupled with consistent implementation of target-focused training. Third, it takes learning new things, and in this case, reacquisition of skills. And it's mentally and physically transformative, as you see. Now, people say IQ can't change. Maybe they're correct. Honestly, the number doesn't even matter. It's not even how you feel, like some people say, because feelings frequently forget facts. It's about what you create, for that is a measurement of overall intellectual and physical strength. And that includes the skills of your workout. Either way, your IQ boils down to a numerical measurement based on standardized testing of your logical reasoning, problem-solving skills, spatial awareness, verbal comprehension, and mathematical abilities. And these can all be improved. All of these subcategories of IQ are inherent to skills acquisition, and skills acquisition is directly related to increasing cognition. Let's look at each of the components of IQ. Logical reasoning. The quest for bodyweight strength and skill drives the practitioner skill by skill, move by move, level by level over years of time into much higher levels of mental performance. Each session, each move requiring logical reasoning, thought, nothing mindless. Everything is fully mindful. Perhaps not semantic rhetoric or systematic logic, but the entire body and mind working together to assess and calculate movement in microseconds with extreme success or fail logic. Second, one thing I started noticing more and more when coaching was that I kept talking about visual spatial awareness because, well, people run into things, run into each other, don't prepare in advance for 3 moves down the line. You might not understand this unless you're in an environment like this. The most extreme situation would be like war games or actual battle with live ammunition. Visual spatial awareness at its highest level. For example, learning free running in a group context with obstacles requiring high levels of spatial awareness is a direct correlative to IQ. Third, let's say you want to learn a flare or a flip or a dyna combo or a muscle up. It's constant problem solving. And especially for the coach. Every single student is different, coming from a different background, different age, different injury history, different strengths and weaknesses and body types and proportions and mentalities. The coach not only has to navigate each individual student, but thousands of students amassing millions of different variables. The problem solving to create a Pac-Rimian strength ninja is literally endless. And for the student, it is infinite as well for each and every skill of each of the 5 elements of Powerbatics. Think about just a basic free run kata like level 3. There's the skills themselves, the direction changes. There's a limitless amount of problem solving as you advance in any aspect of skill development, thus infinitely providing opportunity for cognitive development. I mean, heck, think about just learning a solid shoulder roll. From lunge to lunge, smooth, powerful. Fourth, as far as mathematical abilities, it is more of a subconscious functional mathematics and physics that is developed in contrast to standard classroom practices. The real-time calculations of where you have to be in space in order to complete a vault successfully, as an example. And the final aspect of IQ, verbal comprehension, which is in no doubt observed in the verbal communication from the coach to the student. Again, even if the man-made numerical value increase in the technical score of an IQ is not observed, well, who cares? Because we know for a fact cognitive ability increases with physical activity and especially in skills acquisition. The article Cardiovascular Fitness is associated with cognition in young adulthood shows that even bodyweight strength as simple as cardiovascular fitness like running increases intelligence. Hayes et al. Shows even further that exercises induces neuroprotection in stroke, and Greisbach et al. Shows the same for traumatic brain injury. And Yoon et al. Shows this for Parkinson's. Again, this is just simple cardiovascular exercise such as running. And what is running but the most basic, purest form of bodyweight strength and skill? If you can run, consider the next step up from that, learning the skill of jumping rope, then vaulting. And then there are studies that show that novel skill learning improves cognition function, or that learning new skills develops working memory. Even Harvard Health says practicing a new and challenging activity is a good bet for building and maintaining cognitive skills. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the ivory tower, the medical industry, or appeals to authority, so take these quotes and studies with a grain of salt. But when one does couple the findings that exercise increases cognition with similar findings that skill acquisition increases cognition, as well as, and probably even more importantly, our own human experience, is it a ridiculous idea to consider that skillful exercise holds the highest value for cognitive growth? Even the most basic rudimentary exercise is still skill to one degree or another. And so advancing in physical skill no doubt increases the extent of cognitive development. There's a 68-year-old student with Parkinson's disease for 5 years who was regularly freezing and had major balance issues. Parkinson's is also notorious for its cognitive issues, but now he's doing multiple pull-ups. His balance has increased in order to, and get this, work on handstands and even dynamic movements. I emphasize this idea of working on because this is at its core cognitive. Work begins in the mind and then extends to the body. To be able to work on anything is both a physical and cognitive task. Now, let's discuss something of extreme importance and quite controversial. Many will tell you that you are determined by your genetics. But this is simply not true. Not only are you not determined by your genetics, but you can change your genetics. It is epigenetic. Epi is Greek and means above or over, like the mind has influence over the body, and in this case, the genetic information of the body. Remember, genetic material is organic, fleshy, living material. The only constant in this world is change, and DNA is likewise subject to change. Your mind brings your body into action, and actions change the body, even its genetics. Gomez and Hillman show that exercise has a direct bearing on cognitive abilities through epigenetic mechanism. In other words, the use of the body in activities of strength and skill cause genetic changes, especially in activities that stimulate the hippocampus. And what stimulates the hippocampus? Learning new skills. Thus, we have a basis for understanding the influence of bodyweight strength and skill on cognitive enhancement and growth. Alex spoke with one of our coaches anecdotally, and he talked about the neuro connection in his body and how bodyweight strength and skills training help those connections start.
And I'll just give you some of the background. So I'm CEO of a company called Intrinsic Medicine. If you go on, what's cool is that I'm developing drugs for the gut immune brain axis, right? It's all about a systems approach to human biology. Right? You know, my drugs are entirely designed. I mean, they're basically natural identical compounds, right? They're based on a unique bioactive sugars that are found in breast milk.
My core has never been this strong in my entire life. In just the work we've done, post-surgery atrophy, all this stuff. Like, I now feel like a more connected human being. 20-year friendship. He's a big, Samoan guy, former federal officer. And he was like, dude, what are you doing? He says, like, your body's changing. He's like, and I told him, I was like, oh, I'm working with Pacific Rim. And he goes, Lee Weiland? He's like, oh, I've been looking at Powerbatics. He's like, I've been trying to figure out how to do like functional strength, and he was like working on the crow. It was pretty cool.
I found this crack. I'm basically free running through life now. I feel like I've accessed additional dimensions. I found this like crack, and I was like, I can make that up there pretty easily. Everyone else is stuck in the tourist sessions. They're like, how did those people get up there? And we're in ancient ruins. It became an experience, and that's really what this is all about. And it's like moving different, thinking differently, right? And then, inspiring other people and just like creating those virtuous cycles. And I think that's like the future of neuroplasticity, right? Is integrating whole self and kind of like the everyday experience. And then it certainly just diffuses by observation to others.
And Jeff is 48 and had 2 major traumatic brain injuries with what people said would be permanent nerve damage, right drop foot and right strabismus or crossed eye. He was also run over by a car which crushed his left calf and foot. Even connecting his thoughts to his leg and making it move was difficult. Jeff struggled for decades but was inspired by some of the student stories and now is moving and working through neuromuscular compensations. Jeff even memorized and performed Ninja Strength Kata Level 1. This is his first physical/cognitive challenge that he's ever faced and won. Now, I want to leave you with 3 techniques that will help you put this into practice. Memorization. One of the things we use is the kata. This is a series of moves strung together into a small routine. Been used in Asian cultures for who knows how long en masse for health and longevity. We implement the same idea here for mental and physical training, and it's far superior to mere sets and reps, and its impact cannot be understated. You can design your own. We have 1 per level for each element of Powerbatics. 9 times 5, that's 45 total, plus foundation, and then creativity beyond that. You could see many of them. They're laced throughout our content and channels. And if you want help with training, just ask. Visualization. Power of visualization is extraordinary, almost miraculous. Laura Wilkinson was out with an injury and surgery for months prior to the Olympics with no training. The only tool she could use was visualization. And then 2 weeks prior to the Olympics, she came back, dove in head first, pun intended, and won gold. I've used this through very difficult multi-year recovery situations as well. Perhaps I'll share about that in the future. But visualization is more powerful than I think we can even imagine. And execution. Execution is the physical action that symbiotically reinforces the adaptations of your brain. You can't just sit and think forever. Eventually, you have to put it into action and then execute until you make it right. If you apply these principles, I guarantee you with all my heart that you will increase in physical and mental power, including your cognition. See you in the next video and in training soon.